So in this lecture, we are going to see some additional warehouse organizational units. We are going to see in the typical warehouse layout that we are going to find in a warehouse, just for having a better view of the different organizational units in our warehouse. We are going to see staging areas, doors, and work centers. So imagine we have a warehouse, a typical warehouse. It can be a plant with a production facility. It could be a distribution center. We are going to have an input of materials, an input of quantities. This could be, normally they are going to be raw materials, packing components. But as I said, if we are talking about the distribution center, we could be talking about finished goods even, or semi-finished goods. We are going to have in the system what is called a door. So for each door we have in our warehouse, for each physical door, we can define in the system a door, and close to it we can define a receipt staging area. As we are going to see, this is going to be a place where we are going to store materials that are received before they are put away into our storage, into our warehouse. So normally these materials are going to remain there. We might need to deconsolidate them. Imagine that we receive them in pallets and we want to store them in boxes. So we might need to deconsolidate them into different handling units, or we might need to change the handling unit before they are put away. So for that, we will need to use what is called a cold work center. Then we will put away these materials. We might have a specific storage type for raw materials. We might have different storage types depending on the needs. Maybe some of them for racks, some of them for shelves, depending on the kind of materials. But imagine that for this example, we are talking about one storage type for raw materials. So we will put away then these materials until they are needed, either on the plant or either we need to deliver them. We might have different work centers for different activities. For instance, imagine for quality inspection or for counting. And for that, we need to use a work center. We need to define a work center in our EWM functionality for doing these activities. Imagine then that, as we said, that we have a production process in this warehouse, in this plant. So we might need to move these raw materials or even packing components, if we have, to one storage type that we are going to call production supply area. We can call it as we want. And they are going to be stored then in different bins in the same way as in a different storage type, waiting for being consumed by production or by process orders. So this would be the normal staging to the production area from our warehouse. Then imagine that once we have manufactured some products, we need to pack them. We want to send them to our customers in a different handling unit packing. We might produce units and we might put them into boxes. So we need to consolidate them into boxes, or we even can put these boxes into pallets. So we might need to pack them into pallets. So for that, we need a specific work center for that. That is going to be, for instance, a work center for packing, and that is what we have to define in our warehouse. We might need to store these finished goods already packed, waiting for the sales order for being delivered. And so they are going to be in a different storage type. In this case, they could be in the same storage type of raw materials, or it all depends on how we want to define the warehouse, the warehouse layout. The definition of the warehouse layout is one of the main activities during the implementation of EWM, and it's one activity that is going to be during the analysis and design. So it's going to be during the implementation. And once we receive sales orders, before we sending, we are going to store them in the issue staging area, and this issue staging area is going to be related to a different door, in this case an outbound door, from which they are going to be delivered either to our customers or to other plants or wherever. So this could be a typical warehouse layout and how it could be defined in EWM, how it could be modeled in EWM. We're going to see now staging areas. As we have seen, this is just a space that is near each warehouse door for temporary storage of products. So as we saw it, they are going to be assigned to specific doors, and they are going to be there waiting for being put away into the final location, into the bin where they are going to be stored. For instance, here we have a customized transaction as an example where we are linking these warehouse doors to different staging areas. Okay. Doors, this, as we have seen, this is the location within the warehouse through which the materials entry or exit. And it is an organizational unit. We can define multiple doors, of course, in each warehouse, depending on how many physical doors we have. And we have here another example of the customizing transaction where we define different warehouse doors, and as you see, we can define if it is an inbound, outbound, or inbound and outbound door. And finally, work centers. These are locations where some warehouse activities are done. We must distinguish these work centers with production work centers, for instance, which are objects or of the production functionality, and that are for making some manufacturing activities. So these EWM work centers are only for warehouse activities, and they are a complete different object than work center for production or for other functionalities like PM or QM. So in these work centers, we might do packing, as we have seen. If when we finish our production process, we might need to pack, or if we have to rearrange the consolidate and pack again in a different handling unit, we might need to use a work center for packing. We need them as well for the consolidation, for breaking up handling units, pallets or boxes or whatever. We are going to need them for quality inspection if we want to perform a quality inspection in materials that are already in our warehouse, and for instance for counting, and for some value-added services that we are going to see during this course. And here we have an example of different work centers in each of the warehouse numbers. We see these ones are for warehouse number 1, this one for warehouse number US01, and here we have some of them for packing, for kits, for the consolidation. So we can enter a description, and when we see the processes, we are going to see some of the functionality that we might need to use, and some of the parameters we might need to use for activating these different functionalities.